In every family, there are unspoken rules, silent sacrifices, and hidden favoritism. Parents are often seen as pillars of fairness, protectors who love their children equally. But what happens when that balance tips, when love feels conditional, and one child is made to bear burdens while another is carried on wings of privilege? This is the story of Samuel, a young man from Lagos who discovered, painfully, that family can be the place where betrayal cuts the deepest. For years, he watched his parents shower his sister with leniency and favors, while he was made to prove his worth in the very home where he was born. And yet, instead of breaking him, their treatment would fuel a journey that ended with a shocking twist, one that forced everyone to confront uncomfortable truths about love, loyalty, and justice. But to understand Samuel's journey, we must start at the beginning, inside the walls of his childhood home, where love came with a price tag. Samuel grew up in a modest but respectable neighborhood in Lagos, Nigeria. His father, Mr. Okafor, was a civil servant who prided himself on discipline and hard work. His mother, Ngozi, ran a small food business, selling akara and pap at the roadside. Together, they raised two children, Samuel, the elder son, and Amara, his younger sister by 4 years. From the outside, there seemed like a typical middle-class African family. Neighbors admired Mr. Okafor's stern yet respectable nature. Amara was considered the golden child, her bright smile and carefree personality always drawing praise. Samuel, however, carried himself with a quiet seriousness that made him seem older than his years. But inside their home, Samuel began to notice cracks in the image of equality. By the time he turned 18, his father announced that Samuel would need to start contributing to the household. "Nothing in life is free," Mr. Okafor had said firmly. "You are now a man. If you want to eat, sleep under this roof, and enjoy electricity, you will pay for it." At first, Samuel thought it was normal. Many young men he knew were expected to support the home once they finished secondary school. His parents asked for rent, Nigerian naira 20,000 every month. It wasn't much by city standards, but for a boy fresh out of school working odd jobs, it was a heavy load. Samuel paid without complaint, balancing his studies at the university with night shifts at a printing press. He told himself it was part of becoming a man, part of being responsible. But soon, resentment began to grow. Because while Samuel was handing over crumpled notes to his father every month, Amara, who was then in her late teens, paid nothing. She was not only exempt from rent, but her needs were endlessly catered to. When her phone screen cracked, their father bought her a new one. When she wanted money for clothes, their mother dipped into the food stall earnings. "Your sister is still young," his mother would say whenever Samuel questioned the imbalance. "Amara is a girl," his father added. "Girls need to be protected, not burdened. You are the man. You must carry weight." Samuel bit his tongue, but inside, bitterness festered. Through his university years, Samuel lived like a tenant in his parents' home. He paid his rent dutifully, often skipping meals so he wouldn't default. At times, he envied friends whose parents supported them with allowances, who went home to meals waiting on the table. In contrast, he returned home to his mother reminding him of unpaid rent, or his father asking when he'd fix the broken bulb in the corridor. Meanwhile, Amara enjoyed freedom. She invited friends over, attended parties, and coasted through her university life without worry. Samuel noticed how their parents praised her even for the smallest achievements. If she passed her exams, they celebrated with suya and drinks. If Samuel aced a project or secured a scholarship, it was brushed aside as expected. But Samuel kept quiet, burying his hurt in ambition. One day, he promised himself, "I will prove to them that their unfairness did not break me." After graduating with a degree in computer science, Samuel got an internship at a fintech company in Lagos. The pay was modest, but he saved every naira he could. At the same time, he continued paying rent to his parents. By then, it had increased, Nigerian naira 30,000 a month. One night, exhausted after a long day, Samuel overheard a conversation in the living room. His parents were discussing Amara, who had just graduated with a degree in theater arts. She doesn't need to rush for a job, his mother said. Let her rest small. She has been through a lot with school. Yes, his father agreed. We will continue to support her until she is ready. Samuel will handle his own path, he is a man. But Amara, we must shield her. Samuel's jaw tightened. He realized then that the imbalance wasn't temporary, it was deliberate. His parents had chosen sides. Determined to free himself, Samuel doubled his efforts. He learned coding outside his office hours, built freelance websites, and slowly built a reputation online. Money began to trickle in, not much at first, but enough to give him hope. Meanwhile, the rift at home widened. Amara, sensing her parents' favoritism, grew arrogant. Why do you always complain? She mocked one evening. You're the firstborn, it's your job to carry responsibilities. If you can't handle it, maybe you're not as strong as you think. Her words cut deep. But Samuel remained silent, fueling his determination with every slight. After 2 years of grinding, Samuel's luck turned. A foreign company discovered his freelance work and offered him a remote contract worth far more than his local job. In 1 year, Samuel earned more than his father had in a decade. He saved ruthlessly, cutting luxuries, ignoring distractions. And then, without telling anyone, he bought a modest 3-bedroom house in cash. It was in a quiet but decent neighborhood. The walls were freshly painted, the compound wide enough for children to play, the kind of home Samuel had only dreamed of as a boy. When he held the keys in his hands for the first time, tears stung his eyes. Not of sadness, but of victory. I did this without them, he whispered. I built my life with the weight they put on my back. Samuel kept the purchase secret for weeks, continuing to live at home and pay his rent. He wanted to reveal it dramatically, to let the truth pierce through their walls of favoritism. The opportunity came one Sunday afternoon. The family had gathered for lunch after church. The table was filled with jollof rice, fried plantain, and chicken, mostly for Amara's friends who had joined. His father, as usual, began lecturing Samuel. You are almost 30 now. You should be thinking of settling down. But how will you take care of a wife when you still struggle to live under your father's roof? Amara laughed, adding, yes, maybe you will still be paying rent here even when you're married. The laughter stung, but Samuel was ready. He pulled out an envelope and placed it on the table. Inside were photocopies of the house documents. What is this? His father asked, frowning. My house, Samuel replied calmly. Paid for in cash. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, with enough space for the family I will build. I will be moving out next week. The room fell silent. His mother gasped, snatching the papers. You bought a house? In cash? Yes. Samuel's voice was steady. While paying rent here. While you covered every expense for Amara. I carried myself, and now, I no longer owe you anything. The silence turned heavy, the kind that pressed against the skin. For the first time, Amara looked uneasy. Her parents exchanged glances, their faces pale. Because in that moment, the truth was undeniable, the sun they had burdened had risen above them all. Samuel moved into his new house a week later. The walls echoed with freedom, yet also with loneliness. He had proven himself, but the victory felt hollow. For deep down, he wondered, should family feel like competition? Should love feel like rent? When Samuel moved out, the silence he left behind in his parents' home was louder than any argument. For the first time, Mr. and Mrs. Okafor were forced to look at themselves, not through pride, but through the cold lens of comparison. Their son, whom they had treated like a tenant, had achieved the very thing they were still struggling to pay for, complete ownership of a home. Amara, however, did not take it lightly. The night Samuel packed his belongings into a small rented truck, she stood by the gate with her arms folded. So you think this makes you better than us? She asked bitterly. No, Samuel said calmly, locking the truck. It makes me free." Her face burned with humiliation. For years, she had been their parents' pride, the one they flaunted. Now Samuel had stolen the spotlight with one swift move. At first, his parents tried to downplay it. "House or no house," his father said to neighbors, "he is still young. Success can vanish quickly. He will see." But behind closed doors, bitterness brewed. His mother began to call less often, speaking only when she needed something. Meanwhile, Samuel settled into his new life. The house felt strange at first, too quiet, too empty. But he decorated it piece by piece, filling the space with books, furniture, and eventually laughter from the friends who came to visit. Then came the twist Samuel had not expected. His parents, who once demanded rent from him, now began to hint for help. One evening, his mother called. Her voice was softer than usual. "Samuel, my son, things are hard. Your father's pension is delayed, and Amara needs money for her postgraduate studies. Can you assist?" Samuel gripped his phone tightly. For years, they had drained him, while Amara floated free. Now that he had built something for himself, they wanted to lean on him again. "Did Amara not get the same degree I did?" Samuel asked quietly. "Why can't she work and support herself?" "She is a woman," his mother replied. "Her time will come. For now, you must help." Samuel's chest tightened. The same old line, the same old excuse. That night, Samuel wrestled with himself. On one hand, they were his parents. Tradition taught him that children must honor their father and mother. On the other, he could not ignore the unfairness that had defined his youth. In the end, he sent them some money, enough to help, but not enough to enable the imbalance. He included a note: "I will always respect you as my parents, but do not forget, I am not your tenant anymore. Treat Amara as capable, not helpless. That is the only way she will learn." When his father read the note, fury erupted. "Ungrateful boy!" Mr. Okafor shouted. "How dare he lecture me? Did I not raise him? Did I not feed him? If not for me, would he even be alive to buy a house?" Amara added fuel to the fire. "He is showing off because of money. He wants to disgrace us." But his mother said nothing. For the first time, she remained quiet, staring at the floor. In her silence, an uncomfortable truth lingered. Deep down, she knew Samuel was right. The cracks in the family widened. What had once been hidden favoritism was now exposed in the open. Samuel's success forced everyone to confront what they had ignored for years. But this was only the beginning. Because soon, Amara's life would take a turn that would shake the entire family, and make them realize that the shield they had given her was not protection, but poison. Life moved forward, but in the Okafor household, tension thickened like smoke. Samuel kept his distance, focusing on his work and building his future. Meanwhile, Amara drifted into a cycle of entitlement and carelessness, shielded by her parents at every turn. Instead of seeking stable employment, she spent her days attending parties, posting glamorous photos on social media, and waiting for opportunities that never came. Each time money ran low, her parents covered her expenses, even borrowing from relatives. But reality has a way of catching up. One rainy evening, Samuel received a call. His mother's voice trembled. "Samuel, it's Amara. She's in trouble." Amara had been lured into a business scheme by some of her party friends: quick returns, easy profit, no hard work required. She had invested heavily using money her parents gave her, only to discover it was a scam. By the time she realized, her savings were gone. Worse still, she had borrowed from dangerous moneylenders to increase her stake. Now they were threatening her life. Samuel arrived at his parents' home to find chaos. Amara sat in a corner, her makeup streaked with tears, while their father paced angrily. "You see what you've done to us?" he barked at her. "We warned you, but you never listen." But even in his anger, Mr. Okafor turned to Samuel. "My son, Please, help your sister. They are asking for 1 million naira. If she does not pay, they will destroy us. Samuel's heart pounded. He looked at his sister, once arrogant, now broken, and then at his parents, their faces lined with fear. Part of him wanted to walk away, to remind them of the years they had left him to carry the weight alone. But as he stood there, another thought struck him: family, however flawed, was still family. If he let his sister sink now, the guilt would haunt him. So he helped. He paid off the moneylenders in full. When he handed over the money, he said nothing to his parents. Instead, he turned to Amara. "This is the last time," he said quietly. "Not because you're my sister, but because I want you to see clearly. You've lived on favors too long. Life does not bend for entitlement. It breaks people who refuse to stand." Amara lowered her gaze, unable to speak. Days later, Samuel returned to his home, drained but resolute. He had saved his sister, but at a cost, not of money, but of trust. His parents called, thanking him, begging him to visit more often. But Samuel's responses were short. Respect would always remain, but the bond had changed. As for Amara, something shifted in her. The brush with danger shook her arrogance. For the first time, she began to look for work seriously, applying for jobs and cutting ties with her reckless friends. Samuel watched from afar, unsure whether it was true change or temporary fear. But deep down, he hoped it was the beginning of her awakening. In the end, Samuel's journey wasn't just about buying a house or proving his parents wrong. It was about breaking free from a cycle of unfairness and showing what resilience can build. His parents, though proud, carried the silent guilt of favoritism. Amara carried the scars of her choices. And Samuel, he carried the lesson that sometimes the greatest revenge isn't anger, but success mixed with grace. Because family may fail you, parents may stumble, and siblings may wound you, but in rising above, you teach them something they can never ignore: that fairness and responsibility are not gifts, but choices. And perhaps that was the greatest truth of all.